Alright guys, welcome back to Learnlyte. In this video series, we're going to continue talking about object-oriented programming in Java. And today specifically, we're going to talk about data types and variables. So, let's begin. Alright, what is a variable? Think of a variable as a box that we can store any value or any data we have. This box also has a name that we can use when referring to the box. Think of the value of pi, which is 3.14159,265 and so on. It would be tedious having to write this value over and over again every time we needed the value of pi in our program. That's why it would be best to store this value in a variable. Therefore, every time we need the value of pi, we can get that value by simply calling the name of the variable it is stored in. Soon I will show you how to create a variable and have them store different values, but first, let's talk about data types. So what are data types? Simply put, data types are basically what we use to specify to Java the size and type of a variable we are going to create and what values can be stored in them. So recall, a variable, you can think of it as a box that we can put any piece of information we want, and this box usually has a name that we can use to refer to it. A data type simply tells us what the size of the box is going to be and the type of box and what we can place inside of that box. Okay, so that's what the data type tells us. It tells us the size and type of a variable and what values we can put inside that variable. So here are some examples of some data types in Java, right? So these are known as primitive data types, or basically data types that come with Java. We'll go more into data types later on where we talk about user-defined data types, but that's for a later video down the series. Okay, so int. This data type is used to store integer values, which are basically whole numbers. Example 0, 1, 3, minus 10, 2, minus 222, 5, and so on. Float or double. This data type is used to store numbers that have a decimal point or decimals. Example 0.5, 3.14, minus 10.5, minus 3.67, and so on. Boolean. This data type has one of two states. It is either true or it is false, right? So Boolean is either true or it is false. Char. This data type is used to store a single character of data. RAM, you have some examples there. So char is basically used to store a single character of data, and we usually place it within quotation mark, whether it be single or double quotation. And it's not just limited to just letters. We can store special characters such as the asterisk, the backslash, forward slash, etc. The final data type that I'm going to talk about is string. This data type is used to store strings, which are any pieces of information placed inside single or double quotations. Example, hello world in double quotation is a string. 40.1 in quotation is a string and not a double because it is inside quotation marks. Bob Burger is also a string because it is in single quotation. And we have the last example, which is this is a string. It is a string simply because it is placed within single quotation. So any piece of information placed within single or double quotation is a string, except for characters. So if we have a single character placed within double or single quotation, we can use char in that case. Alright? So, how to create variables and store information. Let's take a look in the IDE. So I'm going to pull up my IDE here, IntelliJ. And here I have my class called hello. We have my method. And right here, I want you to take a look at this. Because right here, I'm creating a variable. I have a variable called name. Right here, the data type is string and the value being stored in it is Theodore. So to create a variable, we simply start with the data type followed by the name of the variable followed by the equal sign, which tells Java that the next value to come after this is what's going to be stored in the variable, which in this case is Theodore in double quotation followed by the semicolon, which tells Java we're ending the statement. So let's create some more variables. I'm going to create a variable. The data type is going to be int. I'm going to call this variable year. And year is going to be equal to 2020 semicolon. That's how we create a variable. Specify the data type, in this case is int, followed by the name, followed by the equal sign, and then the value that's going to be stored in the variable. I'm sorry if I sound a bit hoarse. Been under the weather lately. So the next variable we're going to create a char. This time I'm going to call this char character. And what's going to be stored in it is the letter T. Alright, just a single character. Create one more variable. I'm going to call this variable pi. Wait, first, what do we need? First thing we need is the data type. So I need to specify the data type. So I'm going to have double. The data type is a double. Name of the variable is pi. It's going to be equal to 3.141. I think that's the value of pi. Lastly, I'm going to create a boolean, and this is going to be, the name of this variable is going to be, I'm going to call this variable Java, and this is going to be equal to true. And lastly, I'm going to create a float, and I'm going to call this I'm going to call this float circumference, and this is going to be equal to 11.5 f. The f simply means float. So here we have a few data types. We have a string, we have a integer, we have a character, a double, a boolean, and a float. And we usually specify the float by a decimal point followed by the f. So that's one of the main difference between a float and a double. And right now we're just going to print it out. So if I were to run this, we get a Java cannot find what do we have here? Java cannot find symbol, variable true, location. Okay, so the error we're getting right here is this one. Why are we getting this error? There we go. That should be a common T. So if we go ahead and here, click run, we get hello world, my name is Theodore. So when doing boolean, the true or false must be common letters. That's my bad. So the false must be common letters and the true must be common letters. So if we have false, it must be common. If we have true, it must be common. What I had earlier was a capital T, my bad. And here we're just printing out hello world, my name is, followed by the variable name. And name is equal to Theodore, which is why down here we have my name is Theodore. So let's print out the other variables. So now I'm going to print out the variable year. And what do we have when I click run? We're going to get the year 2020. Okay, so that variable works. I'm going to print out the variable character. You can see my IDE finds it for me. And we should get T. And we do get T. The next variable I'm going to print out is pi. So I click run. And we get the value of pi down here, which is 3.2415. No, that's not the value of pi. It's 3.1415. Here we go. We update it. Click run again. And you can see the value has been updated. The next variable I'm going to print out is Java, which should be true. Go ahead and click run. And we should get true down here. And we do. And then finally, I'm going to print out circumference, which is a float. And we should get 11.5. So when we click run, we get 11.5. And there we go. So that's how we create variables. So we start with the data type, followed by the name of the variable, which should be lowercase. We typically use camel case when we're doing our variable names, followed by the equal sign, followed by the value that we want to put inside of the variable. Okay? And that's how we create variables. You should also note that the data type also specifies what variables can go where. So for example, we have an int data type right here. So we can't put a string in an integer. It will give us an error. So if we say you can see here my ID is telling me something is wrong because I'm trying to store a string in a variable, but that variable is of type int. So remember what we said before, that the data type specify what type of variables we can put, what type of values we can put in the variables. The data types specify the size and type of variables and what values can go in them. So in this case, I have a data type of int, which means only integers can go in this variable here. And I'm trying to put a string there, so you see I'm getting an error. If I were to run this, I'm gonna get an error right here. String cannot be converted to int, because I'm trying to put a string in a variable with a data type of type integer, and that won't happen. So I'm gonna bring this back to 2020. Alright, and if I go ahead and save and run, that error should go away, and it does. Alright, so that's it for variables and data types. I hope you have a better understanding now, and if you have any questions, comments, leave them in the comment section below and I'll do my best to answer them. And once again, thank you for watching.